Hey everybody, this is Searching for Solutions 2. I have my buddy Terrence here. So, Terrence, tell me a little bit about yourself. Growing up, where'd you grow up?
Sure. So I was born here in sunny Florida. I was born in Royal Palm Beach, which is a suburb just about 20 minutes west of the downtown area here. I lived here till I was 18, moved around a little bit. I lived in Portland, Maine for about 5 years, did some cool stuff there. Then I moved back here, I think 2019, stayed for a couple of years through COVID. Then I moved to Portland, Oregon, and then I came back after a year, and now I've been back here, I think, about 3 years.
Whole lot of Portland.
Yeah, I got to get all the Portlands in. I think there's a Portland, Texas as well.
Is that next?
That I might have to check out. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So I've heard you do a little bit of work in the food service industry. Could you tell me about that, what it's like being like a manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I am the manager of Nick's Diner, which is a 50s diner that's here in West Palm Beach. It's been here since 1986, so it's cool. We don't have a lot of institutions here in West Palm. Things kind of go up and come down pretty fast, so it's cool. Have a little bit of history there.
Something with some staying power.
Exactly. I hadn't been in food service a very long time. I did coffee when I was younger, like 18 to probably 23. My first job ever was Starbucks. And then when I was living in Portland, Maine, I worked at some of the, cool snooty coffee shops where I got the license to be a coffee snob.
Is that a real thing?
A coffee snob? Oh, yeah.
The license?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No. It's not real, but it's understood. It's respected.
Okay.
It's respected. No, now I actually just got a Mr. Coffee for the first time, so I've kind of calmed down in my snobbery,
Okay.
Yeah. So I did coffee for a while. Then I did quite a few things. I've kind of, been, for better or for worse, been sort of all around in my working career. I did do some work in the arts when I was in Maine, and then I came here, was working at the Norton Museum. COVID came, that all kind of crashed to the ground. Worked in florals for some time. Worked as a landscaper in a couple of places. Florals was a cool merging of the arts and the earth, two passions of mine. Long story short, the job at Nick's Diner kind of happened after I was working at an art gallery here in West Palm. It was a gallery that was on Dixie Highway, a place called Antique Row. The gallery was called Nomad, and it's not there anymore. But it was an interesting experience. It was very, very ritzy, very well paying, but there was, I'll just say, for not getting into it because I don't trust the good. It's some stuff that I wasn't comfortable with, and so kind of fell out from under me. And so then I had, this great place I was living with a cool, kind of moderate, lofty art gallery paycheck, and so then I had to match that. And so food service is, pretty well-paying industry. So I was at Nick's Diner for probably just about a year, and then I started managing. It started as just a sort of assistant manager position, but then the manager who was there for 14 years left. And so then I stepped up as the manager full-time. And it's been very, very interesting.
I want to know a little bit more about like food service, like procurement and stuff. How hard is that to do for like a diner? Like you have to get eggs and milk and stuff like that all the time. Like how hard is that to manage? Was it like a natural step after coffee, like just easy getting into after that?
I would say so. I don't do too much of the ordering. We're in a blessed time right now where typically most things are available. We see some fluctuation. There was the egg shortage that happened a couple years ago.
All the chickens.
I guess just a year ago now. Yeah. So that was interesting to see, and the price for a carton of eggs going from I think it was like $40 for 120 eggs to like $250.
Wow.
So I mean, it was some incredible.
So eggs were really that rare.
Yeah, definitely. But it passed, and now there's a rumor on the winds that there's going to be a beef shortage.
I've heard the same.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think, well, business is one thing. There's always going to be that demand, and people are always going to want things. But I think when you kind of take that out of it and you just look at like our personal relationship to food, there's always going to be something. But no, I mean, I don't know what food procurement would have been like 100 years ago, but now it's
It's a
we've
lot
got,
easier.
yeah, Cheney Brothers, huge corporation, Cisco, so it's kind of all locked in.
Yeah, and so are those like, I guess you would order through those companies and they just have local vendors, or not local, but local suppliers that get it to you?
Yes, yeah, and at this point they do create or they have their own generic brands of a lot of stuff too. So I don't know the details, but they certainly have a handle on the food market.
All right. I want to talk, I guess, coming off of that, the coffee procurement. I mean, I've been to Nicaragua once. I got to actually go out and pick cocoa beans, which was really fun. I mean, for one day, obviously, it was fun. I mean, I can't imagine doing it every day. It's hard labor. But how do you guys, I mean, how would companies that you worked for in the past, like, get these and make sure, like, they were responsibly sourced? Because I know that's a big issue in getting coffee.
Right. Yes. I would say it depends on the coffee shop. As I mentioned, Starbucks was my first job, so there wasn't a lot of conversation, because that's corporate, so you're not connected to the purchase of the beans at all. You're just there to brew the coffee. And then, some smaller coffee shops. And now it's also sort of fashionable to be ethical. It's a fad. So when you can say, oh, this came from this farm, it's desirable. So the coffee shop I worked at for a few years in Maine, it was called Speckled Axe. It's still there. And they were pretty close with the farmers. So Matt, the owner, he would travel out and he would meet the people and, be there to make sure that there was ethical trade happening.
Yeah.
And even, oh yeah. Even within that, there's going to be levels of ethical trade and, fair pay in Nicaragua is going to be different than fair pay in the United States. Then you have, coffees from Hawaii that are going to be a lot more expensive because of under U.S. labor laws.
Coffee from Hawaii? I didn't know about that.
I believe it's Kona coffee.
Yeah. Is it good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that there's a certain level of any connoisseurship. I don't know if that's a word, but now it is.
We'll take it.
Especially now that it's on recording.
George Bush it.
Yeah, exactly. Some connoisseurship that is the performance and the story, that we attach to those things. There's a coffee, I swear. I mean, it was, I think it was like eaten and passed by an elephant. There's some weird stuff. There's some weird stuff out there.
That's awful.
Yeah, but, very desirable. Very desirable.
Is it desirable? If I knew it was passed, would it be desirable still?
Right. Well, that's what makes it desirable. I think wealth kind of desensitizes us at a certain point. You just got to thrill seek. And so it's like, if that coffee wasn't passed by an elephant, I don't want it.
Oh, man. So, I guess growing up here, just tell me a little bit about, like, growing up. How was childhood and stuff?
Yeah.
Especially in Florida.
Sure. When I was younger, I didn't care for Florida very much. And my moving away was really to get away from Florida. I love it here now. And that's taken some time, and it's taken being away to understand the uniqueness of Florida. I would say that, and this is how I've sort of made sense of that desire to get away. And I'm speaking of South Florida, West Palm Beach, which is, in the grand scheme of things, a very, very young city. Royal Palm Beach, where I grew up, it was incorporated probably 65 years ago now.
Okay.
I know it had its 50th birthday when I was young. That's in my memory. And, compared to places in New England, let alone Europe, where you have, just centuries of establishment. The places here being so young, there's just a certain culture that hasn't developed that I would say I'm starting to see now. So part of the sense I've made of South Florida's peculiarity is that newness. And you're starting to see now, especially because it's such a melting pot, of which I heard that melting pot isn't PC anymore, and it's actually a trail mix because it's all the pieces separate together.
I've heard the saying that it's not homogeneous, it's heterogeneous.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how it's going to be. People like hanging out with people like them.
Exactly.
It's always going to be that way.
So trail mix or, fondue, whichever floats your boat. There's a lot of people here. And so I think the way that the culture develops here is very different. Wait for the train to pass.
Oh, I think we can just roll. I think everybody understands we're right next to a railroad and underneath an airport right now.
Oh, yeah.
Just having some fun.
Absolutely. So, where I grew up in Royal Palm, it was very corporate. So I never saw, local businesses growing up. That sort of mom and pop. I was in the middle of, the big box store had really taken the reins. And I was born in 1995, so it was in my lifetime that this now like growing township. It's technically a village, which is funny. That is a distinction. Got a Walmart, and that was a huge deal.
That's how you know you made it.
Yeah.
When you get your first Walmart.
Exactly. But yeah, so we didn't have any local businesses. You didn't get that culture, and I was just visiting a friend in Pennsylvania this last week, and we were in the Williamsport area, that's the home of Little League. So that's like north central Pennsylvania. And so again, that's an example of a place that's pretty well established. It's been there for hundreds of years, and you just see a craftsmanship and an attention to detail that here you don't see as much. Because it's, very fast building, very cheap building.
Very rushed. You'll notice that more and more, like, I guess with the newer buildings. Like, there are some older ones, obviously. We have, what's that hotel? The Breakers. I mean, a beautiful building. Just absolutely stunning. But then you get to the other side and everything is just, it looks like it got put up in 30 minutes.
Right.
Planned in 5.
Yes. Yeah, and, there is a craftsmanship in Florida, Palm Beach. But it's sort of it's a lot of concrete and stucco, which is special. Again, it's one of those things that I've learned how to appreciate. Where it's a place from a couple hundred years ago that was designed to look like Italy, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. It's all sort of like Disney World,
I see that. I can see that. It's all kind of a facade.
It is. It's very interesting. And even being in Pennsylvania, I was staying in Williamsport, and this friend was taking me around to these rural towns that just had, these incredible little markets and country stores. And I even understood conservatism in a very different light, because there's a difference when there's actually a culture that they're trying to conserve. And it's like, oh, wow, this has something special. And this attitude of we need to keep it this way, versus when you're in a city that is such this amalgamation of different cultures and different wealth brackets. Conservatism takes on a predominantly social commentary that is, it's just a little different. It's kind of unclear to see what's being, what
it seems like they're trying to conserve classes, and I can see how that feels different, especially like growing up here, growing up around it. You're like, why can't I be like them? And then it probably feels weird. I mean, that would be the best word I could come up for it. Weird, disincentivizing, maybe.
Yeah, it's very, very different. So, seeing these little towns just untouched by time, it's like, oh, wow. Like, I understand why they really want to fight.
And there
to keep
are
it
some
this
areas
way.
like that in Florida, just beautiful, like just untouched, it seems. I went out to Clewiston a couple weeks ago. Driving through there, I was like, oh my goodness, it is so beautiful. I mean, unfortunate for what the Army Corps of Engineers did to the area, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. It's been done. And I mean, I guess I was thinking about that. Maybe conservatism came a little bit late in Florida to have like a real conservative like movement, or a real conservative I don't know how to say it, like a sameness to the rest of it. Like you're talking Williamsport, they have like culture on culture there, dating years and years back. Florida, I mean, only started getting occupied by like actual people, 1920s area. I mean, it was sparsely populated, but I mean, once Flagler came down, that's when it really started to pick up, building the railroad down the East Coast, then the one down the West Coast, and all the way out to the Keys at one point. Rather impressive feat.
Right. And I mean, South Florida in particular, I've always liked the saying, in Florida, you've got to go north to get south. You know, here they sort of needed the Army Corps of Engineers to have it be inhabitable to this degree.
Yeah,
it
to
had to be
drain all
dredged.
the water out.
Yeah. And then you have, you know, St. Augustine, and I think that's like 1870 was the first settlement, the Spanish settlement. And I do love St. Augustine. It's beautiful, but it also does have a sort of Disneyfied essence to it because that preservation has been so strong. You know, you're kind of stepping into what's basically a stage set now. It's very cool. I'm not trying to knock it. You know,
No,
there's like an old pub there, you know, and it's like, yeah, you're stepping into this pub from the 1800s. It's kind of neat.
I guess we can go on to this. I've heard you've done a little bit of art in your time. Would you be willing to share a little bit about that? Your artistry, what you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. So the high school I went to here in Palm Beach County in Palm Springs is called G-Star School of the Arts for Motion Pictures and Broadcasting.
Wow.
And so that's where I went to high school, got an awesome education in film. And you know, at the time, really thought I was going to kind of pursue this Hollywood idea without really knowing anything about it. And then it was shortly after graduating, I moved to Maine, to Portland. And there I got wrapped up in very like radical leftist communities, you know, ultra progressive.
It's the backswing from hanging out in Florida too long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's the revenge.
exactly. And so then I kind of just, you know, was very angry at everything. And of course, with that, you know, the Hollywood machine, you know, which today I'm not going to stick up for Hollywood by any means.
No, you can't.
Yeah, no. So
It's unobjectionable.
yes, yeah. So then, you know, kind of did this hard swing into being interested in like these art house cinema things and cult classics. I ended up doing a little bit of documentary work there on a volunteer basis, and that got me into a program called Side by Side, and that was very cool. They're still around today. This was about 10 years ago now, 11 years maybe. Side by Side was an arts integration nonprofit.
Okay.
So that was, we would go into classrooms and we would build lesson plans around their curriculum that's required by the state to use art to teach them that curriculum.
Okay. I'd be worried about how this affects like science or whatnot, but you know.
Well, so for science, what we would do would be, you know, like little documentaries or just shorts on science. So you're sort of molding whatever they have to learn. So we did many different topics.
Does
Didn't
math
do any
work?
math. No, I was just about to say. Yeah, I don't think we did any math with film. But there were other programs. So I worked with fifth graders doing film. There were, you know, the little kids would do like paper mache. And then, you know, trying to remember, it's been so long. There was, just drawing. There were a lot of crafts. There was a theater program that they would do with the kids as well. So yeah, it was a really, really awesome team that I got to work with. And so we would build, again, you know, you take what they have to learn, which is all state regulated, and okay, how can we use art to bring this lesson to them? So that was a lot of fun. I did that for the 5 years that I was there, but at the time we lost the funding, and so then that was a big sort of push for me to move back to Florida, as well as having a nephew that was born.
That's awesome.
Yeah. While I was there, that was a big part of my artistic practice, was working with them. Then I was involved with these very, you know, kind of like grungy underground groups doing different like shows at night. And
That's never good.
yeah, hey, you know, it was what it was. You know, had fun. Not my cup of tea anymore, but
Yeah.
at the time it was. And let's see. I was really into just kind of like in your face, deconstructionalist, like, you know, art. Like, loved Andy Warhol. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to take this object and put it on a pedestal and be like, this is art. Which, I think has a place. I could still kind of talk about that. I think that there's value to taking something and looking at it as an art object.
Sun's out.
There you go. Yeah, you can take something, look at it as an art object and discuss it, and it helps you sort of reassess something or understand it from a different light. But I think part of my draw towards like conceptual art and again, just a sort of like aggressive, like Dada and any sort of non-traditional movement was just kind of an avoidance of the time it takes to gain technical proficiency. And so I was actually very outspoken against like technically proficient artists, which, at this point, like that's just so young and silly,
I'm jealous because you're better than me. You've worked harder.
Yeah,
So it's not as good. It's like, he worked harder. He's done it for a little longer. There's some merit there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And so, a big kind of wrestle that I've had in the past few years, I became a Christian about 3 years ago.
Awesome.
Which is a story in itself. And that was when I was in Portland, Oregon, which again, story in itself.
That is a deep place to find Christ.
Oh, amen, yeah. But it was in that transition where it's like, oh, beauty has a place. Like there's something very important about this. And even just seeing how much I was living for this like element of chaos and this element of taking things apart. It is, I don't know where you want your podcast to go, but like there's a demonic nature to that.
We can talk about that.
Hey, yeah.
So how did you, what got you into that kind of art? Do you feel like you were surrounded by demons, or was it just like more of like a spiritual thing at the time for you?
So getting interested in deconstructionalist art and just countercultural art, I think it was time and place. Because we are just a part of this like much larger thing that's happening. And,
absolutely.
Art is just a direct window into the subconscious. Art is a reflection of what people are going through at a time.
Absolutely.
And again, I think with the arts, that's something very valuable. We can see how people are expressing themselves.
Because I doubt like Andy Warhol started off just putting Campbell's soup labels all over the place. Like, he had a build up, and
he did.
There are ebbs and flows in this life, certainly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think too, we're at a time where identity is sort of happening in reverse. So,
care to explain that?
Yeah. It used to be that, the question of your identity largely was handed to you. You were born into a family that had something to offer, or you weren't. So like if you're lucky, Pa owns a business and you work for that business.
Absolutely.
Or, your calling would be this like very divine experience where you have this like moment of understanding of what you need to do. It was very, I don't like to use the word predestined, but, it was set out for you, like what you did was a very small window. We're now in this time with this, what I think is like a very dangerous lie for the youth of you can do anything you want, which just is not true for many, many reasons.
I fell into that lie.
Oh yeah. It's super dangerous.
That's why I have a 22 subscriber podcast right now, guys.
There you go. We're going for 24.
24 at the end.
I'm
guys,
I'm one of the two. So you are told you can do anything you want to do. And so then this great search begins. But at the same time, you're now ushered onto the internet, which is this platform that our brains cannot comprehend. And you have to fill out a bio, I remember being like 12 and trying to fill out a biography. Like, that's insane, right? And now every 12-year-old is doing this, like even probably younger. But they
Gotta have
see
the
this.
TikTok followers.
Yeah, so you don't have a biography when you're a kid. You don't have it, and that's okay.
You don't even understand yourself yet as a kid.
Yeah, but there's this pressure to fill it out, and present yourself to the world. That's crazy.
Selling yourself at 10.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think those things kind of tie together. So there's this pressure to establish your identity. So I knew that I wanted to be an artist. It's with air quotes. I wanted to be an artist. So it's like, okay, well, that's different than, kind of falling into creating something, and then you get a practice, and then you're established as an artist, and then you look back, it's like, oh, wow, I've become an artist over these years, versus like, oh, I feel like I identify with this archetype. Now I'm going to try to strong arm it. So it's like, all right, I guess I'll get a beret. And I did.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because, I wanted to be that countercultural. So it's like artist, countercultural, beret. Easy.
Firstly, what?
Yeah, and I swear, to this day, I do think it works. Because, like, shortly after I started wearing the beret, I did a talk at the Portland Museum of Art. So there's something there, Oh, man, yeah, costumes are powerful. But
The age of deception.
Yeah, yeah. But, like I said, you can talk about art, something very powerful about that. But yeah, so I think getting into that deconstructional art, conceptual art, was largely time and place. Because when I was in Portland, Maine, I would also take the bus out to New York City and romp around there. And I had at least one friend who was living there. And yeah, you just kind of seek that community. I think that's even more on how identity today kind of keeps forming itself, where it's like, okay, I'm this thing. And so then you keep finding people who also align with that identity, and you keep kind of digging into that ditch.
Okay.
And obviously it's going to be a very different group of people that are at a gallery, where they're smearing stuff on a canvas, versus like a high art gallery. Yeah, and I would say today too, it's very popular, and I mean, the rabbit hole of the art market and taxes and just the popularity of having art for that sake of tax write-offs, bank lobby art.
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah. Like there's a great documentary about it. Link in bio.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the documentary, but like Dean Koontz, the big, very famous for the balloon animal sculptures,
I
things
think
like
I've
that.
seen those. I didn't know the guy though.
Oh yeah, you've definitely seen some of his work. He sort of fell into that trajectory of Andy Warhol, where art as a product. So art is created sort of as a means to the end. And kind of the thing that we're setting up here is the difference between like art as capturing beauty, specifically like the beauty of God's creation, versus I want to deconstruct this creation, or I want to deconstruct this art itself. So all paintings, for instance, are going to be essentially, a trick of the eye, where it's pigment on a canvas, but you look at it and you see a landscape. And then you get into the modernists and abstractionists, and it's like, no, this is just paint on a canvas, and they want to sort of accost you with that idea. What art wants to do to the viewer is kind of a really interesting interaction. But again, I think just being in that mindset of wanting to pull things apart, seeing the world as problematic, and seeing, the world only for hierarchies and, the construction of gender and racism, all of these things. That, again, that mindset, like this radical left, queer, genderqueer, it's all about how can we take apart what's been built. And what's really interesting to me, because I've spent some time on the internet, when
Haven't we all?
Yes. If you go down either rabbit hole, like far left or far right rabbit hole, they all arrive at this idea of anti-civilization. where,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like there's something wrong. So I think there's something that everybody can agree on, where like something has gone wrong.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's interesting too. I'll say an element of salvation is the difference between everything is broken and everyone is evil and there's no hope versus everything is evil and everyone is broken but there is hope.
Absolutely.
And I think even just having that one, shift, again, coming to Christ when I was in Portland, Oregon, which is, a very far from God place. It's like, okay, there is salvation to be had. And there is something that we can work towards.
Took you just going a little bit too far, just like getting out there in Portland.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe this isn't the route I want to go. Maybe I want to turn back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I was blessed growing up, and I never really enjoyed art. Honestly, you can take me to an art museum, and I look around. I'll be like, yeah, that's cool, but it never held any real value to me beyond the paint that was on the canvas. I mean, that was what it was worth to me. How much should you spend on your materials? I never saw like some intrinsic value. I'd much rather like look out in spaces like this in nature. I mean, obviously this isn't the most pristine nature. I mean, it's been taken over by man, but I liked the idea. I mean, that was what art was to me, was God's beauty, what he gave us. Just going out, walking through the woods. I mean, we have beaches. You can go out on the beach and just admire it. It's beautiful. You can look at it all day and never get bored. And that's where I felt like as art was as a kid and even to today. So I mean, I understand, like, I guess how you can go so far doing that rabbit hole of art that you do get to these fringe societies, fringe cultures, and how it can, I guess, sway you, affect you.
Definitely.
So now that we've, I guess, kind of gotten to what led you down that path, how'd you get out your time in Portland, you said, in Portland, Oregon, not Portland, Maine?
Yes.
How did you find God in Portland, Oregon?
Well, the full unabridged testimony, I wasn't doing much. I moved there in 2021. I had some job opportunities. But then once I got there was the Delta coronavirus, so, yeah.
I didn't care that much about which one was which.
Oh, yeah. So they shut down again. So then I was, jobless in this new place. It was rough. I did end up getting a pretty cool job, which again, I mean, that was working at a landscaping co-op. Very, 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 again, air quotes for the podcast listeners, progressive. And it wasn't, though. It was really interesting. Like, they had this platform of being a cooperative, but there was ultimately like one person who would make all the decisions. It's very interesting. I kind of left with a bang and a strongly worded email to the entire group. But I digress. So, I moved there, had a job opportunity, had a relationship that brought me there. The relationship didn't work. The job didn't work. And so then I'm alone in this place, and that's very dangerous. When you don't have a community, you don't have God, you don't have an anchor. And so you're just kind of to the wind. And I would say that, the defining direction of my life would have just been pleasure, what feels good. So that's really what I was living for. So coming to Christ was a pretty supernatural experience, actually. I got very into psychedelic mushrooms. And so it was just in that space of being alone in my room and experimenting with this drug where I just had this encounter. And it was very potent, very profound, and I understood that I was communicating with God in some capacity.
That's intense.
It was intense. And then, of course, the first thing that like comes to mind is like, oh, I've gone too far and I've like totally broken my brain,
We've all been there.
Yeah. So there was fear there, and I just kind of kept pressing into that. I had also been, very spiritual, through all this time. I had a friend in high school, and her mother actually got me into it wasn't a Ouija board, it was an angel board, so it was this kind of communication. Yes. And the crystals, and then
Sounds very Portland.
yes, yeah. And then I read tarot cards for probably 8 or 9 years. I actually did it professionally as well. For a time in Oregon, that was the only way I was making money.
Are y'all just lying?
That's a whole nother podcast. We can get in that. I would be happy to talk about that. But yeah, so I was very privy to like spirituality, but had never encountered anything to where I understood, okay, there's an afterlife and there's a God. So I'd say that is kind of, if I had to whittle down the moment to a realization, it was, realizing that God had to exist, and realizing that something was going to happen when I die. And so then it was in that space where I understood too that I needed to get a Bible. And so I did. It was I just went to the dollar store the next morning and got just one of those little pocket Bibles.
Shout out the dollar store.
Yeah. And then I started to see, as it is written, these realizations that I was having. So these things I was having in this like altered state, I was seeing in scripture. I was like, okay, there's something going on here. And now I'm very mindful with this testimony because I don't want my testimony to be a testimony of psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah, it's not the goal, and that's not what did it.
Right. I think
seeking it out.
Yes. And I think, psychedelics open the door all the way
to anything.
Yes. Yeah. So
regions you don't want to go to as well.
Right. And I realize now, having a biblical foundation and looking back, that I was absolutely communicating with things that were not God. The Holy Spirit was definitely working, and saw that door wide open and was like, I got to check in on this kid, But yeah, there were also, things I was entertaining that were very much not godly. So that's because people ask like, oh, should I go do a bunch of mushrooms?
No.
It's like, no, I don't think so.
No.
Don't
do drugs.
Yeah,
Ruins
don't do
your
drugs,
life.
kid. So yeah, I mean but that is, and I've wrestled too, because I've had people straight up ask me, they're like, oh, who shared the gospel, with you that brought your life to Christ? And I can't lie, and say, oh, this guy, read me this passage and it changed my life.
It was a lucky combination of loneliness and God's grace.
Yes, it was. So, that's what brought me to Christ. And so then it was this, an understanding of needing to repent. And I have all of these things that, at the time felt like such incredible revelations that at this point in my life and in my walk, it's like, oh yeah, obviously. But just, there's right and there's wrong.
Good and evil.
Yeah, there was a time for most, for 10 years of my life at least, where I just didn't really think that was true. So it's these very, very small things that, change everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the avalanche doesn't start with nothing.
Yes.
It starts small, and then it goes and goes, and then it gets huge.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, understanding that there's good and evil, understanding that there's like a way to act, like there's a way to be. Understanding that, the time I spent in, again, like deconstruction, I want to tear things apart. Gender roles are something that people have made, to oppress us. It's like, actually, limitation is a good thing.
Absolutely.
I think that, I say this mindfully, so a big argument for like the trans community is, oh no, we are just these souls that are, limitless, and, you can be anything you want to be. So, okay, sure, I think that there's truth to that insofar as, like, there's an essence of us that is beyond this physical world, okay? Mm-hmm. And we have been given free will to do pretty much anything. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean we should.
Absolutely.
And there is a way that has been set out for us that is just the best way.
It is the best way. I'd agree entirely.
Yeah, and so you have been given the freedom to explore it, but if you talk to people, it's like, no, there's a better way to do things.
Yeah, you have the freedom to go out and do all the bad things you want. It's just that one day there will be consequences.
It'll
catch up to you. Mm-hmm. And it might not even be on this earth.
Yes. Yeah, and I think another a really profound thing that Christianity has given us is there is an incredible potency and beauty and blessing that comes in limitation. And this kind of takes us back to what we were just saying about, telling kids they can be whatever they want to be. What an awful thing to tell a kid. God loved us so much that he limited himself into the flesh to be with us as Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So, we serve a God who understands the power of limitation.
Yeah, you could have came down with somebody with 8 arms, 8 legs, and 28 eyeballs and said, I'm God, and, he limited himself.
Right.
He had only the power of one man.
Right. Yeah, and even, you look at what you want to do with your day, right? Mm-hmm. What are you going to do today? I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. You're not going to do any of it, But if you're realistic with yourself, you limit yourself, you look at what's important, you'll do that thing. And I think that's kind of one of the lies that's really rattling us down is just, I have to do everything. And it's just leaving us disappointed because you can't. It's not realistic.
Yeah. You have to base yourself. You have to ground yourself. I mean, that's really important. I mean, because if you do think you're going to get everything done on this earth, you're going to be left sorely disappointed. I guess we should talk about, given your artistic background, how do you feel like the state of modern art is? I mean, we've came to like brutalism and radical deconstructionism is like a norm, but we've given up things. I mean, we've given up like Gothic Rome and the cathedrals back in Europe. Beautiful, stunning pieces of art. The antebellum, that's one of my favorites. The beautiful plantation houses that, I mean, if I could have a porch that big, I would be blessed. And like Art Deco, that's a huge one in South Florida. I mean, but it's slowly fading and we're getting more and more of concrete squares.
Yes. I think that we have really devalued beauty. I think that a big part of it is just finance. Okay. What's cheaper? Mm-hmm. What's cheap? What's inexpensive? What's fast? The only thing I can say sort of contrary to that is even the mansions being built today, they're pretty minimal. So even wealthy people are kind of disconnected from this idea of things having any
true beauty.
Yeah, and beauty is something very technical. Again, that's kind of one of those switches that I had in my mind where, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's not really true. I mean, there's preference in the eye of the beholder, but we have like the rule of thirds and the Fibonacci sequence. Mm-hmm. Like there's a technical aspect to what makes something beautiful. And I mean, you can take that spiritual very quickly too. There's something present in this creation that we recognize.
And God had it all planned out before, thousands of years before we even figured out the Fibonacci sequence. Rule of thirds.
We discovered something that he created.
Mm-hmm. And through nature. Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking at flowers, stuff like that.
Yes. So, there's a technical aspect to beauty, and we've really moved away from it. I think part of it is, again, the money. Mm-hmm. What is inexpensive. But it's really been fed to us as well as this sort of futurist thing to be desired. Mm-hmm. When you imagine the future, as been given to us by the media, you have that sort of Apple store, mm-hmm. where it's like everything is just white walls and there's no, embellishment. And I think part of that is even a reflection of us moving into a digital world. So yeah, I don't know what it is. I think that there's a hunger for it.
The new or the old?
Well, I guess both. We're at such a point of, well, let me say it this way. I think sort of both are existing in equal gusto in a way. And,
mm-hmm.
People are either latching on to this idea of, we don't need any of that. to, oh, actually, we're missing out on something here. So the friend I was visiting in Pennsylvania, he has a collection of some silver pieces from the Victorian era where everything has an item. Like one of these things, it was the sterling silver grapefruit holders. And it's this item, this object designed with this like spiky spiral, and you twist your grapefruit onto it, and it's angled in this way so that your grapefruit doesn't squirt out,
That is interesting.
Yeah, so it's this excess and this lavishness that is, it's kind of silly to us now, but there's something I do admire about that. Like everything has a place. Contrary-wise, with the same friend, he just got back into town here in Florida, and we were checking out one of our downtown area now has probably 8 interior design stores on one block.
I've heard that.
Crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's for another podcast. But we went into one of these and we're just browsing around, and there's this like ice maker that comes with these forceps, like for picking up your ice cubes, right? Which kind of harkens back to that Victorian essence of, everything has a purpose. I have a tool for this. I'm not a poor person who's going to use my hand to pick up the ice, but there's something different that's happened. Back in the day, these things were more sacred and a lot harder to come by. If you were to have ice, you would have this like huge block of ice that would then need to be broken down, and there was sort of a ceremony or a ritual behind it. But I don't need that now. Ice can come from my refrigerator, which is incredible. If you talk to somebody from 100 years ago,
You told them a refrigerator or air conditioning.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So we're very spoiled. We all live like royalty, 100%.
Maybe that's part of the cost.
Yeah.
That we've lost some of that grander beauty. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, I think, I think money is a big part of it. But again, we see that the wealthy people too, there's still not that beauty. Those ice forceps that were for sale were not necessarily beautiful. They were kind of cold looking. So, we've lost craftsmanship. Part of it too, I think, could be there was a time where you knew everybody who made the stuff in your life. Your furniture was made by the people in your community. And, there was a time even where you would trade your livestock for that furniture. There was a cohesion and a connectedness to all things that we are so far from. Now the building of things is becoming automated. So there's not even human hands, You could argue that there's human hands still designing this hardware and software that's going to automate a process, but there's a spirit missing from things. You mentioned cathedrals as well. I attend a Baptist church. I definitely gravitate more to Protestant belief. However, I think that we're foolish to think that nothing from Catholicism or Orthodox practices. This is speaking of Christianity. I can't speak to other faiths. I think we'd be foolish to not recognize that there's something going on, there that has importance. I even think about how in the Old Testament there's like a thick portion of text that's dedicated to the precision at which the tabernacle, the house of God was to be built. Very, very precise. Very precise embellishments, what is to be, woven, what materials are to be used. There's something there. And then, I do agree with the Protestant idea that, God is present when 2 or more people are honoring him, and that we don't need those embellishments for him to be present with us.
Absolutely.
However, when you walk into a cathedral, it's very different than walking into a Baptist convention center. It's very different. And we're sensory beings. We are sensory beings. how I like to say is you can celebrate Christmas without putting up a tree, without, the smell of like cinnamon cookies. But that's not the same. You can do something without the embellishment, but if I were to talk about the sights and smells and sounds of Christmas, you get goosebumps. It brings a full body experience to us. And I think that's part of what we are losing in the world right now is full sensory experiences with our places, with our architecture, with our art. Everything is becoming sort of flat. Yeah, I mean, I can keep going even with a little routine of mine has been walking to the record store. I'm so thankful to have this little record shop that's just in walking distance. And walking distance is very uncommon in South Florida. There's not always a lot you can walk to. But I just go to this record store and I use my fingers to flip through the records and use my eyes to look at them. And you can smell the old, paper that's holding these records together. It's a full sensory experience. I also have Spotify. I don't need that record store, but there's a whole thing that's happening. There's also the interaction with the people who work there.
You don't get much interaction with the Spotify people. You have what is it, DJ Beta?
Yeah. Oh, I don't care for DJ Beta. He and I don't get along very well.
No. I listened to this yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, there's something that we have lost with the disregard for the finer things. And I don't know, I think it may even have to do with moving away from collaboration and working with people. This is me just kind of theorizing off the cuff now. I haven't thought about this too much, but again, when everything used to be connected and you had all of these minds coming together to build things, to put their time and blood and sweat and tears into architecture, or and anything that we created, your furniture, your art, there's something that happens when people are interacting, and maybe it's even just in the isolation of the individual and the prioritization of the individual, that all of these things are just kind of falling off as a side effect.
Absolutely. We have become more and more, I guess, isolated. It's probably just the right term for it. We've isolated ourselves through internet, through artificial intelligence. I mean, people think that they have a real relationship with their AI girlfriend, and it's concerning because that's not real. And once they update it, it can all be taken away.
Yes.
There is no, I mean, I guess, no Earth update that takes away your girlfriend. It's actions. It's consequences. And we've kind of strayed away from taking risks. Will this be beautiful once it's been built? But we're going to bring the whole community together to build this church. We have to. Sorry, but once we do that, like you said, with coming together to work on something, that's how a lot of those old cathedrals were created. Was the community coming together and everybody worked on it. It was everybody, and they all wanted their little piece of it, to make it special. The value of your labor. It's all changed. I mean, you can even see it in New York City. You remember the pictures of the people on the I-beams, just sitting there eating their lunch, but they'd work 12-hour days, and then they built something absolutely beautiful in the Empire State Building, something unlike anywhere else in the world at the time.
Right.
And they felt a lot of value in doing that. They must have, if they're willing to eat lunch dangling off an I-beam 80 floors in the air. You have to have at least some I want to get this done. I want this. There's a want to there. And I feel like we kind of lost that. We've lost our want to as humans a little bit with internet and the ability to disconnect from actual reality, watching a 2-hour-long movie. You take your problems away for those 2 hours, but then when the credits roll, you're like, oh, I wasted 2 hours and I still have to get this done.
It's kind of taking me back to, again, this idea that we can be anything we want to be. Whereas before, you were privileged to get work.
You're privileged to go to college.
Yeah, and anything. It was incredible, like an incredible opportunity, and anything you did, you do it for the glory of God, and you do it with all your heart. And now, it's like, oh, construction worker, ugh,
I mean, I think to at least some of my experience, like I've driven with my buddy all the way to Denver, Colorado. You go through there and you go through Kansas, we'll say. Kansas, kind of like Nebraska. They won't admit it, but they're really similar. But you drive through there and you realize, like, why are we telling these kids that they're going to be anything when some of them just want to farm. They want their land. They want to raise animals, but we're telling them, go to college. Go do art. And then they take on debt, and then they never really have the money to get back to the farm, buy their own land. And I mean, I hate to say it, but West Virginia, coal. They were a lot better off when they just when they were allowed to go mine coal. And I mean, there were areas in West Virginia that were the richest in the south part of America, south of the Mason-Dixon line. Those were some areas in West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky. And once you take that value of labor away from them, you can see how these communities have collapsed.
Yes.
It's in ruin. You'd wonder, why is there a 15-story building in the middle of West Virginia? It's because there used to be people that wanted to be there and they had value there. And we've taken a lot of value away from just even menial tasks. Because I hate to say it, but some kids just want to make good money mining coal. I mean, it'd be a lot better than taking on debt, getting a business degree, and then coming back home in rural West Virginia, and there's no business to be had.
Right. I would say too, I know I personally really latched on to the lie of if you're anybody who's anybody, you get out of your hometown. Mm-hmm. You got to go to a city. You got to go somewhere else. And I think that is something that has been really eaten up. Who stays in their hometown? Why would you do that? And that's very sad. It's very sad. So I think that's also part of why you have this phenomenon.
It does build a strong community, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if every person who had something to offer, offered it to the place where they're from, wouldn't, just by the nature of that, everywhere would be a little bit better.
Oh yeah.
But we tell them, no, you're too good for this place. You have to go to
the
this
New York
place.
City. You have to get to LA. You got to get down to Miami.
One of these 5 places.
Yeah.
And so then
You'll
you
love
get this,
Austin.
you get this concentration of minds there, and then I think that's actually too much of a good thing, and then you have all of these abstract thinkers who are destined for something more, all kind of clashing in a place, and
but there's only so much.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I really hope that we figure out this side of heaven of how to balance the incredible community that is found in, rural communities where you just take care of each other. And also, I'm not from a rural community. I know that's not every rural community. I think that there's something to be had for these smaller places where you only have what you have. And then, there's also incredible things that happen in cities with infrastructure and what people can build when they come together. And we have...
And what's possible in a city.
Yes. Yeah, we have them, unfortunately, on opposite sides of the fence. I think that there's something in the middle, that we're waiting for, where you have, family values, where you have that independent community, you have people working together, sharing resources, and you also have a bus, So, I think that we're still kind of working out the kinks on that. But there's some marriage that needs to happen.
Absolutely, because it gives everybody more value, especially when you're somebody who can come back home after college. Unfortunately, it's really not incentivized to come home after college. You're told, like you said, go to a big city. You got your degree, now make something happen. But we always forget about our hometowns, where we grew up. How is it affecting those people? And I'm guilty of this. I guess I grew up in a diasporic family. My dad's from Virginia. My mom's from Kentucky. I grew up in North Carolina. They met there. I moved to a different part of Kentucky, the exact opposite of where my mom's from, for college, and then come down here for grad school. I mean, never have we really like set up roots anywhere, and we haven't really, I guess, gotten into that level of community, which would be possible, because there is something to be said for like going to a dollar store every day. Like, since you can ride a bike, you ride your bike, you go get a candy bar and a soda, and that guy watches you grow up, and he has like a fondness to you. He understands you. And there's really something to be said for that. And that's something that obviously I'm not contributing to because I took off on them, you know? And I guess you might feel the same way, but you've came back and are offering what you have to this area, which I find beautiful. I mean, it's honorable. I respect that.
Sure, I appreciate that. I wouldn't be hard on yourself there. You know, I think that
There's always time.
There's always time, and I think that there's so much value in living in other places because that's how you do bring perspective to a place where you're from. And I think if you are called to go back to the place where you're from, you'll feel that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think it's to say that, you know, everybody needs to stay where they're born because, you know, we have been blessed with like travel to...
We have cars
Yeah,
and
it's
trains and
crazy.
airplanes, believe it or not, guys.
Yeah.
You've heard them all the day.
You know, it's I just don't think the standard should be for everybody to feel like they have to leave. Or, you know, to expand on that, you know, the calling shouldn't be that
You have to stay
if you
either.
are somebody, you know, you need to, you know. I think it can be both.
You know, a little bit of trading minds from different areas, getting outside influence a little bit. You can't have somebody come in and say, "Oh, you're all going to change," because nobody's going to accept it.
Right.
But I mean, I coming down here, like you said, going back to the beginning, conservatism here, it's different. It's different than Kentucky. It's way different than North Carolina. And it's something that I've been picking up on, just like listening to local politicians. They have way different priorities here than they do in Kentucky. And they have way different priorities in Kentucky than they do in North Carolina. And those two really aren't that far apart if you think about it.
Yeah, I'm considering even, you know, how we're talking about something like conservatism being different in different places, but now there's also this third thing where we have the hive mind that's been externalized onto the internet. And so it's morphing into this thing that is not bound by location, but becoming this kind of amorphous idea, you know, that is not tied to a place, for better or for worse. I've heard in a couple different places recently this idea that all of the unrest that we're feeling as a time and a people in place is just our response to transitioning into a digital world.
It could be.
Yeah, I think there's something profound to that, you know. So the argument is that it's not about gender, it's not about race, it's not about class, it's just the fallout of this thing that we can barely even comprehend what we've created.
It manipulates us. It takes every single click. Every time you look a little bit longer at something, it notes that. It
100%.
knows what you're looking at.
I have a feeling too, I mean, this is just, you know, conspiracy territory, but like, I don't know, there's probably facial recognition. It can tell when I smile a little wider, you know? So I don't know. We know that technology
I don't read the
exists.
terms and conditions.
Me neither. It's long.
I mean,
That's time I could be
access to your
scrolling.
Camera, well, I gotta take pictures on this app anyway. Why not?
Yeah.
All the time.
No, totally. We've been very desensitized to that. We've also just been really desensitized to the intake of information. Again, to kind of like keep painting that picture of small town versus the big picture. You know, there was a time not too long ago, bad news, and I'm stealing this from a sermon. These aren't my thoughts. Bad news was that, you know, Mr. Jones's farm was on fire. So what did you do? You got buckets of water.
And red.
You put the fire out, and then
Bucket brigade, you just pass them down next person.
and then you rebuild the farm. Now, like, there's war and famine.
Yeah, I get.
Nothing I can do about that.
I wake up in the morning and I see an explosion of some building, and I'm like, oh, that's how I wanted to wake up, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I get that's because the other world's a day ahead of us, or the other half of the world's pretty much a day ahead of us. But it's like waking up to that. It's jarring, and it's not something any other generations ever had to deal with on such a scale. Like you just go on there, you want to see if anybody's posted any cool vacation shots this weekend, and then boom, it's a bomb, and it's like nobody's ever had to live like that.
No.
Nobody. And it's not just us. It's not our age. It's kids younger than us. There's kids that go on there, the 10, 12-year-olds that don't know how or shouldn't know how to make a bio yet.
Right.
And they see this. They see just death, and they're going to be desensitized in a way.
Totally. And then there's this
There's
cultural...
nothing more painful than death on this earth.
Oh yeah. And then if you make the decision to listen, I'm going to tap out of this. I can't afford to keep looking on the internet and seeing this tragedy across the world. How dare you? How dare you put your head in the sand?
Yeah.
You just don't care. It's like, no, I actually care too much, and I can't, I become useless.
I can't rationalize it to the...
Yeah. And I think that's a sad,
and even if you don't, it's pushed into your face. You'll see it. Somebody else will show it. You'll be ordering coffee. Oh, yeah. And you'll see it over somebody's shoulder on their phone. You're like, I don't need to see that again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have this memory that's like a very vivid picture of, it was pretty recently, I was working at the diner, and there was a car accident that happened outside. It was pretty brutal. This elderly woman was hit by a vehicle. Oh. And this guy holds up his phone. He's like, yeah, she got hit by a car. Look. And he took a picture of the corpse and he showed it to me.
Oh.
And I can still very vividly picture that, and to think that, that's just such a weird thing to take a picture,
have
and
a camera on your phone and be able to eternalize something like that. Eternalize it.
Right.
Not just for you, but for whoever else sees it. They live that same experience you did at the time.
Yeah.
But why should everybody else have to see it? You could tell them. You could describe it in as much detail as they need.
Yeah.
And they'll have a pretty good understanding. They don't have to see it.
Right.
You really don't. We don't need to be desensitized to the violence in the way we are these days.
Yeah. I know. I still think about that, and it's just so odd.
And it plays, I guess, into broader cultural schemes where you can say I want my opponent's children dead, and it's like, whoa, we got to have lines somewhere, guys.
Right.
Death is a eternal thing. You don't get brought back. There was only one person that's ever been brought back from the dead, truly. I've experienced death in my life. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I mean, you have. You tell me the story, and I don't want to see the picture. You telling me is enough. It was tragic.
Yeah.
Any death is tragic. It is the end. That is an end.
Right. And I think we just, we always need more of things, even just tragedy. We're very odd beings, and just have this sinful nature for wanting more. It's really interesting phenomena of, horror movies being kind of how we discussed art as a reflection. Horror movies are this tracking of, what is bringing fear to a generation. And so we can see... specifically after 9/11 in America is when the body horror became really popular. Yeah, so you have the Saw franchise that takes off because fear was upped. We witnessed a domestic terror attack
and we saw that death.
Yeah,
and you saw it on live television.
So you need more. Now this campy zombie movie isn't enough. It's I actually need to see torture.
Oh, yeah. I don't watch horror movies. I don't find them entertaining. I've always known when it's about to get scary, they play the music, and it's just maybe it's for some people. I'm not ever entertained. And you're right. It does also desensitize you even more. I mean, you see blood, you think blood's okay. And it's no, it's not. You don't want to see that on the outside of a human ever.
Yeah. I had a odd experience recently where I was at my brother's house, and he was watching House of Wax from, I think it was actually 2001, early 2000s, starring Paris Hilton, and really brutal. I'm not going to go into any detail, but just torture.
No.
And I had to go. I had to leave. And, I had this moment where I'm watching it, because it's on and that's what you do. And I have this voice in my head that's like, oh, you should be able to handle this, And then, this louder voice that said, the eye is the lamp of the body. If you keep the eye clean, the whole body will be clean.
Yeah, why do you have to keep handling this? Why do I put myself through it?
Yeah.
It's optional. Turn the TV off. Walk out.
But, I just left a little sooner than I would have. And, I felt unclean. Like, for whatever that word means, I felt it. I was like, oof.
From just a movie.
Yeah, I was like, because, it's also very sexualized torture. It's like, it is a very beastly thing. It is a very fleshy thing that, I mean, we know that there were many beliefs that did call for like ritual sacrifice. And I think that we still have this thing that is like dormant in us that is looking for that.
I think there are people like that within society too, though.
Yeah.
And they might, I hope they're not in positions of being able to put out content like that, but they might be.
Yeah.
And that might be part of the reason why we keep seeing it, is because some people do celebrate death. They celebrate it.
Oh yeah, it's scary.
As Christians, we try to celebrate life. That is what is good.
Right. Well, and just to humble myself, I was just calling myself earlier. I said I need a bumper sticker that says "Son of Thunder," because in the Bible, is that John and James who was it? They see the Samaritans and they like are disrespectful to them. So like Jesus, we have the Father bring down fire on them and destroy them, and Jesus is like, whoa. No, like, how are you going to be given this power and authority if somebody disrespected you and you want to destroy them? But I'll be driving and somebody does something stupid and I'm like, I want them gone, like I want them destroyed, so I'm not going to do that. But there's still this part of me that like I'm like, oh, like, no, vengeance will be mine. So we
you want to get the one up on them just because they did you wrong once.
Yeah. So I think that's what like keeps growing for people. And if you don't harness that, but none of us are above that like thought of revenge and like that, that was wrong to me. You wronged me.
Oh, absolutely.
And
that's the little bit of evil in you.
Yeah.
It's the devil winning over for a minute.
Yes, I think the road is the best. That's the equalizer. I think part of that is even just the
I-95.
Oh yeah, you're dehumanized. You're in a big machine, and it's another big machine. So you're not. It's not making eye contact with somebody. But
you're angry at the Saturn. You're not angry at a person.
Yeah. It just brings out this like beast. It's scary.
Well, you said it was for another podcast, the tarot card thing. I'm still intrigued by that. Is it a lie?
Is it a lie? So let's see. I've always
thought of it as like a money-making scheme, just the...
I will say, okay, there's like a lot of tabs I have to open for this one.
Okay.
So I would say, in general, I think it's a tool. I think that different people can use it differently. So whenever I did it, I did it earnestly. I wasn't like trying to scam people. I saw it as an opportunity to help people parse out their thoughts and process through whatever they're going through.
Okay.
Do some people use it to take advantage of people? I'm sure. You could. Like you see people into it in different levels, and you could easily kind of get a feel for that, and I'm sure really play people if you wanted to. So when I did it, I was not looking to take advantage of people. I did it for no money for a long time before I decided to try doing it professionally.
Okay.
And then it was just a local bar I went into, asked them if I could set up at the same time every week, and I did, and I had people coming in.
Wow.
And so I'll say too, part of it was like, okay, I'm going to do this act, like I'm going to kind of play this up and I'm going to dress up and kind of do the thing. So there was a showman part of it. Now, like...
Because I always associate them with like psychics and mediums, and I always find those people like, oh, if you don't pay me $100, I'm going to curse you. And it's like, this is a little weird. This is a bad relationship. I always think about like those kind of people because they always have the tarot readings on the side. It's like,
Right.
Maybe I won't spend any money there because I feel like there is like a level of maybe demonism or something in there that's just not, safe.
Yeah. So I would say things get demonic when you're trying to take power from God or when you're trying to take power over your own future. I would say, something that was different about how I would read people's tarot cards, especially in that time towards the end of that career, it was, I wasn't trying to tell people's future. For me, it was more of a process of like looking at people's present, and I don't want to condone them, but I never felt an overly spiritual connection to them.
Okay.
People kind of paint this image of like some hand coming and, turning the cards and, some spiritual component. But I mean, it's really like.
Doesn't help that some of them dress like witches, but
Sure. Because again, there's the performance. Because even when I did it, it's like, let me dress, mystical looking. But the tarot itself, there's a lot of symbolism from the Bible. It comes from, it's going to just not be in my mind because I have a microphone in my hand.
you're good.
It's a sect of Judaism where they kind of branched off. So there's a lot of Old Testament symbolism that is used throughout the Torah. And so when I actually started reading the Bible, I was like, oh, I'm familiar with a lot of these themes. But I digress. I think that there's, it's a deck of archetypes that exist that we experience both in ourselves and other people. And so, you just kind of use it, or I'll say I used it as a tool to kind of talk things out with people. This represents this, like, does this bring up anything for you? I never tried to like make it a game. I never been like, oh, I'm getting, a J name, I never did that. It was more like, this card tells me that, there's this and this, which it's just stuff that's always present in people's lives. Because like our lives are all relatively similar. And, I'll say I had a friend kind of freak out on me. He's like, he wants to be a fundamentalist so bad, and he gets really up in arms about certain stuff. But I was like, yeah, I didn't stop reading tarot because I felt that it was evil. I stopped reading tarot because it was no longer necessary for me. I was looking for answers, and so I was using this tool to try to find those answers. And so, I realized I didn't need to know my future, that I could put my faith in Jesus and that it was secure, so I don't need to know what's going on. So
Absolutely. It gives you a sense of peace knowing, anything could happen in the day, but I still have that one card up my sleeve.
Yeah.
God's got me. That's always nice to have.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I never had any like demonic experience with tarot cards. Again, like I'm not condoning them. I wouldn't suggest it. I think it, it takes you away from having a center of faith. But that's even something, because there's kind of this intersection that happened as I was coming to faith and as I was leaving the New Age, where I still was reading the cards. And, I found that the only thing I was telling people was just to have faith. Like no matter what would come up in the cards, it's like, oh, well, you just need to trust God, that like, so it just kind of naturally happened. I was like, oh, well, like if this is all I'm seeing in these now, like just, you have to trust whatever's going on, put your faith in God and kind of like, it just always kept being the same thing. So at a certain point, it's like, yeah, I don't need these anymore.
To all my tarot card scammers, turn to God.
Yeah, repent. Yeah. So again, I think that, and here's what I'll say as far as any feeling of evil that I ever experienced from the cards. I will say this: when I first started, and I was pretty young, I was probably 19 or 20 when I first got a deck of tarot cards, and I was just generally very anxious. I was just an anxious person, because of whatever reasons ever make us anxious. And so that really reflected in the readings I would do for myself and for others. So, there was undeniably a reflection of whatever I was going through at the time. So if you're anxious and you're looking at, again, these archetypes that are always present in our lives, you're going to imprint your anxiety into them, and then you're going to, expunge that on people. Whereas when I started to come into peace, it's like, okay, then I'm seeing that peace in these. So I think what happens with tarot and with anything mystical where there's not the power that's put into God and received from God that is unchanging and a firm foundation, it's us who are changing and who are unstable. And if I'm doing some sort of magic and, I start to think, or I'm given a thought, if you want to get into this realm of the mind, if some odd thought comes to me, like, you're going to get sick and die, it's like, like, oh no, and then you kind of start to fixate on that. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, why did I see that? Why am I seeing this? And then you kind of keep giving that power.
It's giving yourself power too.
Yes.
It's worship. It's self-worship in a way.
It is, yeah. Whereas, it's like if I have an intrusive thought now, like let's say I'm praying or whatever, or I'm just sitting around and I get this like invasive thought, and it's, something about sickness or death or dying, I know that's not from God, because God doesn't give us those thoughts. So you just kind of, it's like, oh, get behind me, Satan. You know that it's not grounded in any truth. So yeah, that's my experience with tarot. But I can't say I had anything horrible happen. And again, I think it
No
depends.
demons following you around.
No. I mean, I definitely.
Spirits.
I will say it was kind of hard for me to get rid of the cards, so I did give them power in that sort of way.
That's scary.
Yeah, I just. It might have been more sentiment. I didn't think anything was going to happen if I got rid of them. But yeah, I just had them for a long time. And they were like, they were frayed on the edges. Like I used them, so there was sentiment. But there's a deeper spiritual truth to every physical reality. So, even just holding on to them, it was still sort of this symbol of, putting my power, or, I need to have these just in case, like this doesn't work out.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
hard to put chapters of your life behind.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
is.
Totally.
So I guess for the last question, what are your plans going forward? I know you say don't talk about plans. If you had goals or aspirations, what would those be? Just
Did I say don't talk about plans?
maybe.
Oh, I didn't know I said that. Let's see, plans and goals. I think the sort of overarching thing that I've been experiencing in the past. So I just turned 30 this year, and it was in 27. When I turned 27, that I understood God, and then I think right before I turned 28, officially giving my life to Christ, and even kind of that trajectory. But with that, like believing that I have a future, because again, just in this like very depressed, anxious, the world is, dying and there's no hope. I never bothered to make plans for the future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so these past few years have been kind of a true reassessment of that.
Just not worrying about it as much and knowing.
Yeah.
Just being comfortable that it will happen. And I can't force it, push it, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You have to, just accept that God has a plan. I think
Yes.
that's a very good message to leave on.
Yeah, and I'll say too, a way that thinking about like business or vocation has changed is kind of, again, trying to work back that lie of like, okay, I can't do anything, I got to narrow myself down. And even another part of that weird thing we tell kids of, you can do anything, like do what you're passionate about. It's like, no, actually, like sometimes work, it's not, you should put passion into your work, but like successful business ventures aren't always going to be the thing that's like your
It doesn't
thing.
make or break you.
Yeah, it's like you need to be able to see a need and fill a need. Find passion in that,
Absolutely.
But like the guy who opened the vacuum shop that's been there now for 80 years. Like, I don't think he woke up thinking about vacuum cleaners. He saw that, like, okay, this is a new technology, and this has some longevity, and I can feed my family with this. So even just sort of reassessing that of it's there can be this kind of, there's an essence of our passions that we follow, but there's also just a practicality that is worth embracing. So that's been kind of what I'm parsing out now. Yeah. So this has just been the season of, again, like trusting that there's a future that we're working towards, and kind of finding my place in that. And I'll say, the other big wrestling too is if I want to move towards ministry, which even then, that's not always necessarily going to be the work. That's not going to be what puts the food on my table, but it might be. So yeah, I'm also really trying to rest in the things that I've been given. My New Year's resolution this year was not to have any New Year's resolutions, and to instead just be like, okay, I don't have to be chasing something new. This job that I have managing this diner, it's like certainly not my passion. I enjoy it because I enjoy people, and I enjoy talking to people, and I enjoy leading people. But it's not my end game, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I've always done this thing where it's like, wow, this isn't giving me the most life, so I have to leave it, and so then you don't build anything. We have to be able to let things sort of build naturally, and also trust that God is going to bring that opportunity when it's time. So yeah, this is, the future for me, I think it's about the present. And really trying to just lean into the things that I've been given, and also dedicating my time to things outside of work. I'm realizing
Time is like the most important or the most valuable currency.
Yeah, and I'm realizing that the future I want to build is going to be built day by day.
Absolutely. Well, Terrence, thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.